The Innocent family lived in the heart of Lagos, where life buzzed with endless activity. Mr. Innocent, a dedicated schoolteacher, was known in his neighborhood not only for his humility but also for his fervent prayers. For the past 20 years, he and his family had made it a tradition to travel to his hometown, Zango, every Christmas to celebrate with relatives. This year, preparations started early. The house was alive with excitement as Faith, the eldest child, packed shiny Christmas ornaments into a box. Her younger siblings, Paul and Rachel, helped wrap gifts for their cousins. "Faith, have you packed the angel topper for the tree?" Mrs. Innocent called out as she folded freshly laundered clothes. "Yes, Mama," Faith replied, smiling. "It's all safe and ready." Over the next 3 months, every detail of the trip was carefully planned. Mr. Innocent spent his evenings praying for journey mercies. "Father, keep us safe from harm. May your angels guard our path," he would say with quiet conviction. The family trusted his faith, though they had no idea just how vital his prayers would become. As the departure date approached, the family visited bustling Lagos markets to buy gifts. Mr. Innocent was determined to surprise his aging mother with a vibrant new wrapper, while Mrs. Innocent Blessing chose to buy household essentials for her sisters-in-law. Faith picked out colorful bangles for her cousins, Paul opted for a football, and Rachel selected a doll. The air was filled with festive cheer as the family packed these treasures into boxes. The house smelled of freshly baked chin-chin and jollof rice, prepared to be shared with relatives in Zango. Even their neighbors wished them well, saying, "Safe journey, Innocent family." The morning of their journey was filled with cheerful chaos. By dawn, the Innocents arrived at Joe Traveling Park. The air was filled with the sounds of honking buses, vendors shouting their wares, and the excited chatter of passengers. Their assigned bus, a bright yellow 18-seater, stood waiting. Mr. Innocent ensured their luggage was securely loaded while the children explored the bustling park. Faith clutched her little brother's hand as they bought fried akara and bottles of water for the trip. As the seats filled up, a burly driver wearing a wide grin climbed into the bus. 15 minutes, and we're off," he announced. Passengers settled in, some chatting, others clutching bags of roasted plantains or chin-chin. The Innocents found seats in the middle row, and Mr. Innocent led them in a quick prayer before the bus rumbled to life. The bus finally roared to life at 8 a.m. Mr. Innocent sat in the front seat beside the driver, keeping a watchful eye on the road, while Blessing and the children settled in the middle seats. The other passengers, a mix of families and traders, chatted amiably. Faith leaned out of the window, waving at the crowded streets of Lagos. The journey promised a new adventure, one they believed would lead to joyous celebrations in Zango. By midday, the driver pulled over at a roadside restaurant. The passengers spilled out, eager to stretch their legs. The restaurant was small but bustling, with trays of steaming jollof rice, fried chicken, and freshly made puff-puffs on display. The Innocent family found a table by the window. Mrs. Innocent handed each child a plate of food, reminding them to eat well for the long journey ahead. Paul, thrilled to be on an adventure, devoured his meal while chattering about Zango and the cousins he couldn't wait to see. As the passengers returned to the bus, the atmosphere remained lively. No one suspected the ominous events that lay ahead. Back on the road, the bus weaved through Nigeria's lush landscapes, passing endless rows of palm trees and bustling villages. Paul sang Christmas carols with the other children in the bus, while Mr. Innocent nodded off, clutching his Bible. Blessing, ever watchful, noticed the driver seemed unusually tense as they neared a thick forest. She nudged her husband, who sat up and whispered a prayer. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the narrow road. Suddenly, the driver slammed on the brakes. "The brakes aren't working," he yelled in panic. The bus swerved wildly as passengers screamed in terror. Mr. Innocent clutched his family tightly, praying aloud. "Lord, save us. We are in your hands." The bus careened off the road and plunged into the heart of a dense, eerie forest. When the dust settled, groans and cries filled the air. Several passengers were injured, and sadly, some had perished in the crash. Miraculously, Mr. Innocent's family emerged unscathed, though shaken. As darkness fell, the forest seemed to come alive with strange noises, howls, growls, and the faint whispers of unseen entities. "Stay close," Mr. Innocent instructed his family. He led them to a safer spot away from the wreckage, praying for divine intervention. The passengers huddled together as the forest came alive with glowing eyes and sinister shapes. Wild animals prowled the perimeter, and ghostly apparitions loomed in the shadows. Paul whispered, "Daddy, are we going to be okay?" Mr. Innocent hugged his son tightly and reassured him. "God is with us, my son. He will not abandon us." As dawn broke, the family decided to explore their surroundings in search of help. Mr. Innocent's unwavering faith kept the group calm as he led them through the dense forest. At mid-morning, they stumbled upon a hunter who was sharpening his machete. "What are you doing here?" the man asked, shocked to see the weary travelers. Mr. Innocent explained their ordeal, and the hunter offered them food and guidance. The hunter's presence marked the beginning of their deliverance from the cursed forest. But the challenges were far from over. The hunter led the family to his small cabin, where they could rest. Though they were grateful for the shelter and food, Mr. Innocent's heart was heavy. He knew they had to leave the forest soon, but the fear of the unknown loomed large. As the sun dipped behind the towering trees, the forest seemed to come alive again. Strange, glowing lights flickered in the distance, moving in erratic patterns. Rachel, wide-eyed, clung to her mother, whispering, "Mama, the lights, they are watching us." Mr. Innocent kneeled down and prayed for God's protection. "We shall not fear, for the Lord is our refuge," he declared firmly. The morning after their arrival at the hunter's cabin, Mr. Innocent decided to explore the forest, searching for a way to contact the outside world. He found the wreckage of the bus, still perched precariously in the trees. The bus, he realized, had lost its brakes long before they had veered off the road. The engine was damaged beyond repair, and it seemed their only option was to find help from the nearest village. But with no phone signal and no map, they were stranded. The hunter, seeing their predicament, offered to take them hunting for food. He explained that the forest was teeming with dangerous creatures, but he knew the path well. "Stay close," he cautioned. "The forest has its secrets. Not all is as it seems." As they ventured deeper into the wild, the eerie silence was broken only by the rustling of leaves. Suddenly, a shadow flitted across the path. Mr. Innocent froze. The hunter's eyes widened. "That's not a wild animal." The eerie whispers began to grow louder. The forest seemed to close in on them, and the air grew cold. Mr. Innocent felt a chill run down his spine. "We are not alone," he murmured. Suddenly, a faint figure appeared through the trees, glowing with a spectral light. It was a woman, dressed in tattered clothes, her face pale and emotionless. Rachel screamed, clinging to her mother. The hunter whispered, "That is the spirit of the forest. She's been haunting these woods for centuries." As the family backed away, a terrifying roar echoed through the forest. The hunter swung his machete, warning them to move quickly. They fled through the dense undergrowth, with the sound of something large following them. Mr. Innocent's heart raced, but he didn't stop praying. "God, protect us from this evil," he muttered. The family found shelter in a small cave. The wild creature, whatever it was, hadn't followed them inside. For now, they were safe, but the terror of the forest seemed ever present. That night, the family huddled together, trying to sleep despite the constant rustling and howling outside. The hunter sat watch, his eyes scanning the trees. Many who enter these woods never return, he said in a low voice. Some say the forest is cursed. Others claim that the spirits of the lost travelers still roam these lands, seeking to take new souls. Mr. Innocent, though frightened, held his family close. We will not fear, for the Lord is our shepherd. As the days passed, the family grew weaker. The food supply was running low, and the tension in the air was palpable. At night, the ghosts seemed to come closer, their haunting wails filling the air. On one particular evening, as they sat around a small fire, they saw a procession of faint, translucent figures. These were the lost souls of travelers who had perished in the forest, still bound to the earth by the curse. Paul clutched his father's arm in fear, but Mr. Innocent remained calm. "Do not be afraid," he whispered. "We are not alone. God is with us." One morning, as they ventured out in search of food, a wild pack of hyenas appeared from the thick underbrush. They snarled and circled the group. The hunter brandished his spear, but the creatures were undeterred. Mr. Innocent stepped forward, his eyes locked on the beast. "We shall not be consumed by fear," he declared. The hyenas paused, as if confused by his unwavering confidence. With a sudden movement, the hunter threw a spear at one of the hyenas, causing them to scatter. "You must keep your faith strong, Mr. Innocent," he said, "or these creatures will see your fear and attack." As days turned into weeks, food and water became even scarcer. The family's strength waned, and the haunting presence of the forest grew more intense. Mr. Innocent knew they couldn't stay much longer. He prayed fervently every day, asking God to send them help. "We are your children, Lord. Please, deliver us from this evil place." Despite the exhaustion and fear, the family stayed close together, their bond unbroken. The hunter continued to guide them, always with one eye on the forest shadows. One day, just as they were about to give up hope, the hunter emerged from the forest with good news. "I have contacted the local authorities. The police are on their way to rescue you." Mr. Innocent's heart leapt with joy. They had not been forgotten. The hunter led them to a clearing where they saw the flashing lights of a police convoy approaching. As the police officers took charge of the situation, guiding the family out of the forest, Mr. Innocent couldn't help but praise God. "Thank you, Lord, for our deliverance," he whispered. As the family was escorted out of the forest, they could hardly believe their eyes. The once terrifying shadows now seemed distant, replaced by the soft light of the morning sun. The police officers, with their stern faces and reassuring words, led them to a safe area outside the forest. "Stay with us," one of the officers said, guiding them toward a vehicle. "We'll take you to the nearest town. You're safe now." Mr. Innocent looked at his family, relieved but still in awe of how they had made it through the terrifying ordeal. "God has protected us," he whispered, his eyes filled with gratitude. The police convoy made its way through the surrounding villages, and after several hours, they finally reached a bustling town. It was a far cry from the oppressive, eerie forest, and the family could finally breathe a little easier. As they got out of the police vehicles, Mr. Innocent was shocked to see an old friend, a fellow believer from his church, walking towards him. It turned out that the friend had been traveling to Zango too and had heard of the bus accident through the police. "I thank God you're all safe," the friend said, embracing Mr. Innocent. "I've been praying for you." Though they had been rescued from the forest, the family was still far from Zango. They needed to find another way to reach their destination. The town had no direct buses to Zango, and their earlier bus was beyond repair. The officer who had been in charge of their rescue approached Mr. Innocent. "I've called ahead. A bus is leaving for Zango later today. You can catch that one. It's your best chance of getting there on time." Relieved, Mr. Innocent thanked the officer. But even though they were safe from the immediate danger, the journey was far from over. As the day wore on, the family rested in a local guest house while waiting for the bus. Blessing and the children were exhausted but tried to make the best of it. Faith helped her younger siblings unpack the little they had left, while Paul and Rachel entertained themselves by drawing pictures of the wild animals they had encountered. Meanwhile, Mr. Innocent sat quietly, reflecting on the harrowing experience. "We've been through so much," he said, "but God has been faithful. We are still here, and we will make it to Zango." The hours dragged on, but finally, word came that the bus was ready to depart. The bus that would take them the rest of the way to Zango was old but steady. It was packed with passengers, many of whom had heard the story of the accident and rescue. As Mr. Innocent and his family boarded, they were greeted with kind smiles and offers of help. As the bus rumbled down the road, Mr. Innocent leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes, offering a silent prayer. "Lord, thank you for bringing us this far. We trust that you will bring us to our destination safely." The journey was long, but the family made good time, passing through villages and towns along the way. The landscape slowly changed from the dense forest to open fields and dry plains as they approached Zango. Though they had faced danger and uncertainty, the Innocent family held on to hope. "We'll be there soon," Faith said, looking out the window with a hopeful smile. But as the sun began to set, a strange feeling lingered in the air. Something didn't seem quite right. As night fell, the bus suddenly came to a stop. The driver cursed under his breath and turned to the passengers. "We've hit a problem," he said. "The bus is overheating. We'll need to stop for a while." The passengers groaned in frustration, but Mr. Innocent remained calm. "Let us not worry," he said, lifting his voice in prayer. "Lord, we know you are in control. We trust you will help us reach Zango safely." It wasn't long before the engine cooled down, and the bus was able to continue. But the delay meant they were now far behind schedule. The bus finally began moving again, but the tension among the passengers was palpable. Everyone seemed on edge, eager to reach Zango before the Christmas festival began. Mr. Innocent and his family, though exhausted, remained hopeful. "We are close now," Mr. Innocent said, his eyes scanning the horizon. "Zango is just ahead. God will get us there." The last leg of the journey felt like an eternity. The winding roads seemed endless, and the dim glow of the bus's headlights was the only light in the vast night. At last, just as the first light of Christmas morning broke over the horizon, the bus arrived at the outskirts of Zango. The familiar sights and sounds of the village brought tears to Mr. Innocent's eyes. They had made it. The bus stopped at the main square, and Mr. Innocent, along with his family, stepped off into the cool morning air. The village was alive with the sounds of celebration, drums, music, and laughter filled the air. It was as if they had stepped into a dream. The family made their way to Mr. Innocent's ancestral home, where they were greeted with open arms. Relatives had gathered to celebrate Christmas, and the sight of them warmed their hearts. Faith, Paul, and Rachel ran to their cousins, eager to join in the festivities. Blessing embraced Mr. Innocent, whispering, "We are finally home." Mr. Innocent stood still for a moment, reflecting on the journey they had endured. He knew that without his faith and prayers, they might not have made it. "God has truly brought us through," he whispered to himself. "Now, we can finally celebrate." The Christmas festivities began in earnest that afternoon, but Mr. Innocent felt a deep need to express his gratitude to God. The family gathered at the village church, where the congregation was already preparing for the Christmas service. The church, a small stone building with wooden beams, was adorned with colorful decorations and lights. The scent of incense filled the air, and the warm glow of candles cast flickering shadows on the walls. Mr. Innocent led his family to the front and knelt in prayer. "Lord, we thank you for your protection," he prayed aloud. "You guided us through the forest, saved us from the wild, and brought us to this place safely. We give you all the glory. After the prayer, Mr. Innocent was invited to share his family's story with the congregation. As he recounted their terrifying experience in the forest, the villagers listened in awe. "It was only through the grace of God that we survived," he said. "I prayed every day, and the Lord heard our prayers. We are alive today because He protected us." The congregation broke into applause, and the pastor approached with a big smile. "Your testimony is a blessing to us all. We are so glad you made it safely." This Christmas is a true reminder of God's faithfulness. That evening, the village gathered for a grand feast to celebrate Christmas. Long tables were covered with dishes of jollof rice, goat meat, fried plantains, and freshly baked bread. The aroma was mouth-watering, and the laughter of children filled the air. Mr. Innocent, Blessing, and their children joined their relatives at the table. The joy of being together, safe and sound, was overwhelming. Rachel leaned over to her father and whispered, "Daddy, do you think the ghosts are still in the forest?" Mr. Innocent smiled softly, brushing a hand over her hair. "No, my dear. God has removed all the fear. We are safe now, and nothing can harm us." On Christmas morning, the family attended the church service with the rest of the village. The church was filled with the sound of hymns and songs of praise. As the service progressed, the pastor spoke about the power of faith and the strength that comes from trusting in God, even in the darkest times. Mr. Innocent felt a deep sense of peace as he listened to the sermon. It was clear to him that the challenges they had faced in the forest had only strengthened their faith. After church, the family spent time reconnecting with relatives they hadn't seen in years. Old friends dropped by to visit, and the house was filled with the sound of happy chatter. The children played in the yard, while the adults shared stories of the past. Faith and Paul took turns telling their cousins about the wild animals they had encountered in the forest. "There was a hyena," Paul said, "and some ghostly figures that glowed in the dark." Rachel added, "But Daddy said not to be afraid. God was with us the whole time." Everyone laughed, but Mr. Innocent's heart swelled with pride. He knew that his children had grown stronger from their ordeal. As the days passed, the Christmas festivities continued. The village celebrated with music, dancing, and prayers of thanksgiving. The Innocent family, though physically tired from their journey, felt a renewed sense of peace. Mr. Innocent spent time walking around the village, thanking God for the safety of his family. He spoke with the elders, telling them of their experience in the forest, and was met with admiration for his strength and faith. "I've never seen a man so steadfast in prayer," one of the elders remarked. "Your faith has brought you through the darkest of times." One evening, as the sun set over the village, Mr. Innocent sat by the fire, reflecting on the journey they had endured. The warmth of the flames was a stark contrast to the cold, eerie forest they had escaped. Blessing joined him, and together they shared a quiet moment. "It's hard to believe we went through all of that," she said softly. "But I'm so glad we are home." Mr. Innocent nodded. "I know. It feels like a dream. But I'm thankful that God kept His promise to us." They both sat in silence for a while, the crackling fire the only sound. On the final day of their Christmas visit, the village gathered for one last celebration, a church service and blessing of the community. The pastor stood before the congregation, offering prayers of gratitude for the year's blessings and protection. "Let us remember," the pastor said, "that we are not alone. God is always with us, even in the darkest of times." As Mr. Innocent knelt with his family, he felt an overwhelming sense of peace. They had made it through the unimaginable, and now, they could truly celebrate the birth of Christ. The time had come for the family to return to Lagos. The joy of Christmas had filled their hearts, and they were ready to go home. Mr. Innocent hugged his relatives tightly. "Thank you for welcoming us. We'll return soon, God willing," he said with a smile. The family boarded the bus back to Lagos, knowing that their journey home would be far less treacherous. As the bus pulled out of Zango, Mr. Innocent gazed out the window, reflecting on how much they had been through. "We are stronger because of this journey," he said quietly to Blessing. "We have seen God's hand in every step, and we know He will continue to guide us." When the Innocent family arrived back in Lagos, they were greeted by friends and neighbors who had heard the story of their miraculous survival. At their church, Mr. Innocent stood before the congregation once again, sharing their testimony. "We were lost in the forest, surrounded by wild animals and ghosts, but we were never alone. God was with us every step of the way. And because of His faithfulness, we are here today, alive and well." The congregation erupted in applause, and Mr. Innocent smiled. He knew that their journey had been a test of faith, one that they would never forget. "God is faithful," he said, his voice strong. "And with Him, we can face anything." And with that, the Innocent family knew that no matter what challenges life would bring, they would always have the strength of their faith to see them through.
The journey of Mr. Innocent and his family teaches us the importance of unwavering faith, resilience, and the power of prayer. Even in the face of insurmountable challenges, their belief in divine intervention and their unity as a family carried them through the darkest of times. This story reminds us that courage and faith can act as a shield against life's greatest adversities. As you reflect on this story, take a moment to think about the journeys in your own life. How do you face challenges, and where do you draw your strength? Let this tale inspire you to cherish your loved ones, hold on to hope, and express gratitude for the blessings in your life. Share your own stories of resilience and faith with others, spreading hope and encouragement wherever you go.